new members to the Cabal. So guys, anyone who can't see previous messages, setups, or videos that I posted in the A Plus Setups Telegram, my bad. Looks like the Orwellian regime took over when Durov got thrown in the can, and they have this new terms of service where basically any old messages new members can't see, only new messages new members can start seeing from day one. So my apologies if you can't see the old videos. Maybe you can. I played around with a few privacy settings. Maybe it overrode what the default was, but anyways, you're going to get all the new setups. So today we're going to go over a meme coin setup. This is a coin that was introduced to me by one of my mentors, basically the only guy I look up to in crypto trading, Alexandru. You guys know Alexandru from all the servers, Twitter, and all that. He gave it to us down here. Basically, he handed us a free lunch right down here. When these lows got taken out, he was basically screaming at us to buy. So all the boys bought. But I do see a fresh entry potentially coming in. Again, this was another area that mimicked what happened here. You could see there was internal range. They flushed them here and then nice like 120% move. But what I see is a very common pattern with meme coins. It's called compression. And they're basically a cluster of U's where each dip gets less dippy, and they just get absorbed at an obvious demand zone or area of demand. Eventually, it's creating a supply line over here where big wallets that are buying and accumulating at the lows, they have to sell into strength, because with meme coins, when you sell and you have size, you experience a lot of slippage if you start selling in large clips, So the idea is for them, you don't want to be selling into weakness where you'll get slipped like 20, 30%, maybe more, depending on your size. You lose a lot of your gains, right? So the way they treat this normally, they're going to be selling into strength. So when average participants are buying the breakout and FOMOing in, there's obvious demand. So when they start selling into strength, they don't get slipped as much. There's some sort of equilibrium even in a dislocated meme coin market, right? But yeah, that's the idea behind this. So I'm looking for compression coming into this supply line. And eventually what should happen, because this has been accumulating for over a year. So we look at the beginning of accumulation right about there to where we are today. 448 days. I mean, that's a long enough time for any composite man or big wallets to accumulate, right? So I'm expecting a breakout soon. You never know when it's going to happen. But this pattern, the compression pattern, is very common. So you could see it here with MOG. If you go on the 4-hour, you could see it here with Punky. You could see it on a whole bunch of coins. You just go back into your meme coin charts and you'll see it everywhere you go. But yeah, that pattern is going to be a very bullish one for pre-breakout. Now, what I'm looking for specifically with Harry Potter, Sonic Obama, 10 Inu, I'm looking for something like this. So with this very well-defined range, you have 68% of the volume being traded in the blue zone right here. You have these false bullish breakouts where basically they break out, whales start selling above the value area into strength, and then they push it back down into demand. So basically everyone who's FOMOing the breakout is getting wrecked, and they're basically immediately in deficit or going red. What you want to see, like in auction market theory, for a proper breakout, what you want to see is when you break out, you come back to retest previous supply right here. And that would be considered a successful auction as long as the demand holds that line. So before repricing into a much higher level, you want to see a breakout of the value area, retest of the value area high, and then successful auction, basically where all the sellers are relenting and buyer demand is outweighing whatever sell pressure is coming in above the value area high. So you just want to see absorption there. And there's ways you can detect it, like I use RVol, relative volume, and I'll show you how to use it in a minute. But main thing I want you to get out of this is the compression pattern, very common with meme coins. A supply line where basically whales are selling into strength, and eventually in that zone you want to see micro compression going into it, and that's a classic TA concept where basically you get compression under resistance and then you get a breakout with volume. So this would be very classic TA where you have a consolidation under well-established supply. And what I'm looking for in that range is something like this, where basically you get that micro compression into it, and we're on the 4 hour, we're already starting. You could see it here. Rejected by supply, and now we're just developing a range in that 4 hour zone. So this will take time, like you'll have time to get into a position. So there's no rush. Again, you're buying at resistance, right? So just be aware, like if you do buy at resistance, have invalidation in the range if you're going to buy. But what I'm looking for is underside. I want to see compression, micro compression here, breakout, and then a new range being formed above the previous value area high. So basically they're doing that, successful auction where they're retesting here. And then it could either pop from there, or you might get scenario 2, which I got mapped out here, where you've already broken out and you've created a new range above the value area high, then a drop to manipulate and basically scare everyone who break out longed to basically puke their position and rebalance this candle that was created into demand, where you have 3 down candles here before pushing up, where eventually I think we're going to get a breakout. And then this would be a manipulation into demand. Eventually what you want to see is the accumulation lows get retested, and that would be a reclaimed level into distribution. Then ultimately my target for this coin, based on the trend-based fib, you would just anchor to the nadir down here, to the Pico top, to the current low, which is actually right there. And more or less, this is going to be your trend-based fib targets. So between the 1272 and 1414. And this would be a classic AMD, accumulation, manipulation in the red box, distribution into the higher target. Now, a lot of this, you look at it and you're like, you're just LARPing, right? No, man, like, have a look. Here's Punky. We'll go into the 4 hour, and I'll show you guys a very similar chart and like what you could expect. So Punky is accumulating in an uptrend, right? Eventually, oh, wrong one, this one right here. Eventually, you get this supply line forming here. And I literally took this directly from here. So it's the same thing. And here's your breakout, accumulation. So you basically were compressing under the supply here, and then you had a breakout, accumulation, manipulation to take out the lows, reclaim right here of that previous level, and then you could see there's one based on the candle bodies above here also getting reclaimed, and then you distribute significantly higher. So this is pretty much the idea I'm watching on Harry Potter Sonic Obama Inu 10 right there. Now what I also want to see, so here's the MOG compression. This is actually the best version of it. You could see very clear compression. This is probably the best version of this meme pattern. And you could line up the supply line however you want. You could put it here. It's still a breakout at the same point right here that I've marked off. So what I'm looking for on the breakout for it to be valid, if you go into the 4 hour, now you could really see the compression. I use RVol, so relative volume. So here was the peak volume, basically on the first drive up, and then you started the compression pattern with very average volume distribution under this bar. So basically 609,000 was your average volume at the high. Your true average is closer to down here. So the blue that you see in the RVol right here, this is your mean. Basically, if you have a look back period associated with it, 20 days, I believe. It'll map out what the mean was for the last 20 days. And then occasionally you'll have this volume event where there's a breakout. So like this spike right here, that was a 3 standard deviation volume spike, and it led to new high. But what I want to do is map out the upper end of the deviation. And then you could see here a major breakout. That was like 3 standard deviation volume breakout. Then if you look at the chart, this is right after the breakout retest of supply. And then you could see a God candle comes in. And even though that candle on the 4-hour was, can't see the percentage, let's move that, 45% 4-hour candle, it didn't matter because that's what created the FOMO, and everyone just kept max bidding after that. So you could see from the breakout using RVol to the highs, this wick right here, it was a 22x. So this is a classic example that I'm looking to replicate with the real Bitcoin, Harry Potter, Sonic Obama, and U10. Compression into supply, RVol breakout at the supply line, potentially a retest, or the opposite, where basically instead of a retest, you form a range, deviate, and then reclaim, then send. So those are the 2 patterns I'm looking for. The architecture of the breakout is the same, and hopefully we get this one. My advice for anyone who's not in from the low, this is high risk bidding over here. So just know that you're bidding into supply, and that's risky. I wouldn't bid here. I would either wait for a retest of the supply line after a real breakout with volume, or I would wait for a range to develop and get deviated potentially into the supply line as a retest. That would be another area. And then the third, like we outlined with Punky, a reclaim of whatever that range low was that formed outside of the breakout. So just don't FOMO into the supply line or on the breakout. Wait for a range, or you can start adding early, whatever you want to do. It's however you want to take the trade. But I'm just giving you the scenarios that could play out here. So hopefully you guys get in on this at some point and make some big money. All right, boys. Cheers.